You'll recall he started the fourth game of the World Series here against the Mets and pitched pretty well, but a Gary Carter homer hurt him, and he was the losing pitcher. Then he came on in the seventh game in the eighth inning with the Sox down 6-5, and Darryl Strawberry led off with a homer against him. He had a long memory. He hit Strawberry with a pitch in spring training this year and set off a brawl down in Florida. Nipper is a bulldog type of guy. He'll really battle you out there. He does not have overpowering stuff. He has a good assortment of breaking pitches. He's got to keep them low and be on the black. Change speeds in and out. He can't overpower anybody.
Well, he learned that screwball from a left-hander out of the Cardinals organization, Al Olmstead, when he was with the Cardinals organization. He has talked the last couple of years with Nuxie, Phil Necro, and may throw up to 30 knuckleballs in the game. Last time out he threw none, so he changes speeds on everything. He's got to have a fastball. He's been on the verge, Bob, how many times this season of being taken out of the starting rotation, and probably will be when the can comes back. Scheduled to pitch a ball game when, Monday or Tuesday?
Oil Can Boyd will start here against Milwaukee on Monday. John McNamara hopes for 6 or 7 decent innings from him.
I guess the big question around here is, in the middle of June, there's the can right there. Signed by the same man who signed Satchel Paige, and that is incredible. Still alive. Ed Scott in Mobile, Alabama, signed the Aarons, signed Satchel, signed Boyd. I guess the question around here, are the Red Sox dead and it's only the middle of June? They better start pitching a lot better if they're going to come back at all. I don't think they can. I think they can make their season respectable, and that's it.
Curveball is in there to Washington to start it. Speaking of scouts, Nipper was signed by Don Footsie Leonard. They remember him. Resides in St. Louis, an old Brownie, played for Bill Veck's Browns. And the 0-1. Down and away.
A terrific amount of depth and bench strength that Lou Piniella's Yankees have. With a Claudel Washington out of the 15-day disabled list. Piniella made a move last night. Charles Hudson sent down. Tewksbury activated. What a blast that was to Charlie Hudson, who was not very happy with it. They want to shake him up.
Hudson had won 7 games, including last night, when in the marathon they had to bring him out of the bullpen. He pitched 3 strong innings, finished the game, 2-2 now to Washington, and then was informed he was headed for Columbus.
That move was made more than just off, before last night it was made, but he'd had about 6 really awful starts. Throwing the ball hard.
And a full count.
This Yankee ball club with Mr. Steinbrenner running it, and Lou's been a great buffer between the players and George Steinbrenner. Are they too impatient, or do they do things just to shake people up, and they kind of skirt that border all the time?
Grounded foul. The Yanks are in a virtual tie for first place with the Blue Jays. But just in the last 2 weeks, they've released Bob Shirley, traded Joe Necro, farmed Joel Skinner and Charlie Hudson, promoted Pat Clemens, Henry Cotto, and Bob Tewksbury, and acquired Mark Salas and Mike Easler in trades. And he walks Washington to start the game.
Yankees without Ricky Henderson are not a great base stealing team. Or Willie Randolph will sneak off and steal a base on you. Claudel coming off that groin pull. He not likely to go, although he has speed. But Randolph hit and runs well. I'll tell you, Willie Randolph has been the glue on this team. They keep winning without Henderson and Mattingly. They're 9-5 without those two, and a lot of it is because of Willie.
He was 4 for 5 last night. He leads the American League in runs scored with 55. Boggs is next with 48. Tacked 46 walks, a league-leading figure, onto his .318 batting average. He's having a super year. Strike one to him.
He's driving in runs. That's kind of a surprise. By the time this season is over with, he will more than exceed any year prior to this one an RBI total. Look at this. Season just over a third gone.
The closest race in the American League All-Star balloting is at second base, where Randolph is less than 20,000 votes behind Lou Whitaker of the Tigers. And Willie is certainly having an all-star caliber year.
Well, as much as you respect to Lou Whitaker, the balloting is somewhat out of kilter in this area also, as it is with George Bell from Toronto, although he's sneaking up. But Willie Randolph, of what he's done thus far, is the all-star second baseman in the American League as far as I'm concerned.
This is an 0-1 pitch with Washington anchored at first, 0-2.
Lou Piniella, Bob, likes to hit and run and start base runners more when there's a left-handed pitcher pitching against him because of the nature of his lineup. He's had Sakata in there, and of course Randolph. Meacham played last night against a left-hander. Tollison. It's a right-hander. He's got more power. He'll play a little bit more for a big inning.
Just outside, 1-2 to Randolph. Nipper began this season 3-0. And through April, his ERA was under 3. Since then, 2-6, ERA over 7 runs a game. He's had some horrendous outings, as you said, including his last time out, Tuesday at Cleveland. He lasted just 2 2/3 before heading for the shower.
I'll tell you, Tommy John and Al Nipper could be out there for a long stretch today with whether they used 12 pitchers. Yesterday, each team used 6. A 13-inning ball game that went almost till 1 a.m., just beat the curfew. Boston's relief has been very, very shaky.
And the 1-2 pitch is drilled to deep left, bound for that monster, and it's off the wall. Washington cruises into third. Randolph dives into second with a double.
Some of these Red Sox fans are still tuned up from last night. The Yankees threw 5 runs at him late. Willie Randolph thought he had an easy double. In this ballpark, with a short left field fence, they play almost all hitters to the middle of the diamond to protect against the triple to left center field. They'll play him straight away or crowd the middle. And Rice made that very close. Willie thought he had it for sure, and he had to accelerate at the end. Infield's going to play back.
Easler at .321 since returning to the Yanks. And did he ever punish his former Red Sox teammates a year ago? He hit .488 as a Yankee against Boston in '86.
A little reminder from Mark Sullivan to say, wait a second. I know the wind's blowing in from left field, but to Easler, he was on our team. You want to crowd him with that fastball. Wind is kind of brisk at times from left field. Nipper pitched deep in the count to Randolph, and he hung a breaking ball and he hit the wall with it.
The 0-1 to Easler. It gets away from Sullivan, but not too far, and no advance. One big difference between Tommy John and Al Nipper. Nipper is a very deliberate worker. Takes his time between pitches and tends to run deep into counts, as you say. So you can be out there a long time with Nipper working. In contrast, John gets the ball back, and man, he wants to throw it again right away.
TJ, who was going to be the 5th starter on this club coming out of spring training after having a college coaching job, pitching coach, North Carolina. Now he's the team stopper. Here's where the umpires have got to put a clock, I think, to speed games up. Hitters are getting out of the box too much. It's not the pitchers as much as the hitters. They walk back to the on-deck circle. They ought to get a clock and say, hey, you only got 5 seconds out of the box. Get back in.
Outside, 2-1.
Okay, do you have to get out of the box after every pitch like this? Take 10, 12, 14-second stretch? It's like on the first tee of a golf course. Take 10 practice swings.
And then hit it in the rough anyway.
Talking about you, not me.
The 2-1. And the count levels. Well, the all-time champion was Mike Hargrove, former Indian and San Diego Padre, played with the Rangers, the guy they nicknamed the human rain delay. He went through a very precisely choreographed series of maneuvers between each and every pitch. Just drive you crazy. Plus, he had a great batting eye, so he's always getting 95 or 100 walks. He'd have 20-minute at-bats. This is a 2-2 pitch. Breaking ball down low.
This Yankee team is a very disciplined team. You're going to get some of the younger hitters like Paliarula and maybe Pasqua will go out of their strike zone. But generally speaking, with the experience they've got with the bats, they make you throw strikes. And it's interesting. Nipper is a nibbler.
And this one's grounded to short. A run will score. Owen throws Easler out, and Randolph holds second.
A smart hitter will do that. Easler runs the count full. He said, hey, look, they're giving us one run early in the ball game, second and third. All I got to do is put it in play, keep it on the ground. There might have been situations with the infield in. He might have said, okay, later in the game, I got to get it in the air. But he just cut his swing down and kept hitting the top of the ball, get a ground ball. That's why they score so many runs, this team.
Winfield has been in the All-Star game with either the Padres or the Yankees 10 straight years. And if the balloting holds, he'll be one of the American League's starting outfielders, along with his teammate Ricky Henderson and Kirby Puckett of the Twins. There's a balloon floating around in the center field bleachers, and Winfield wants them to get it out of there before he hits.
Well, the fans down there probably miss Bob Stanley. He's in the starting rotation now. May not be there after Boyd comes back, but he goes out there with that rake and he hammers him. John McNamara, who has seen many games frittered away from his relief pitchers, he's got a chance to have a good starting staff when Boyd gets back with Hurst, Clemens, who struck out 12 the last time, and Boyd. That's 3 solid starters, but it may be too late.
The kind of game they lost last night, or the 14-inning game we broadcast here 2 weeks ago against the Tigers, now the balloon has fallen onto the field. Someone's going to come out of the bullpen to put an end to it. The kind of game they lost against the Tigers here, or the game last night in 13 innings against the Yanks, they won almost every game like that they were involved in last year until the World Series. And a ball low to Dave.
The Yankees are leading the American League in runs scored. That was their 359th, just crossed the plate. Ironic, this is the DH League, but who's leading all of Major League Baseball? The Cardinals with 368 and 3 less games played than the Yankees.
2-0. The Cardinals might become the first team in history to go from first to last and back to first again in runs scored. They were tops in 85 when they won the pennant. They were dead last in 86 with an anemic attack. And this year, they're soaring again. Randolph at second, 1 out in the first. And 3-0 to Winfield. Pasqua next.
Nipper going with an off-speed pitch, even though he was behind in the count, 2-0. The other irony about this season is, again, with the DH in this league, one more hitter. The Toronto Blue Jays lead all of the major leagues in team ERA. A couple of freak things to this point of the season.
And in a tiny ballpark in Toronto, too.
Yeah.
He walks him on 4 pitches. Nipper in deep trouble here in the first.
2 bases on balls already. Deep in the count to every hitter thus far. John McNamara knows the only guy he didn't use out of his bullpen was Crawford. Here's Pasqua. Did this ball explode yesterday, Bob?
Schiraldi had a 2-run lead, 5-3 in the 9th, 1 out, a man on, and Pasqua with a mammoth home run to almost dead center to tie it. And in the 13th, the Yanks got 5 more and won it 10-5.
Don Mattingly was talking about him before the ball game. We were setting up for that interview with him and Ricky Henderson. He said, nobody's ball in the American League sounds like Pasqua's off the bat. As you can see by that average, he is struggling. He's on the verge of getting sent down also.
Outside, ball 1. They talked about sending him down. They talked about trading him to Chicago for a pitcher, Bannister, Dotson. Now with the acquisition of Easler, another left-handed bat, more pressure on Pasqua.
Here comes Billy Fisher, the pitching instructor, with nobody loosening up. He's just going to try and calm Nipper down and get him to throw some strikes, make him put the ball in play. Well, when they were talking about Pasqua and trade rumors, a lot of that was during the offseason and last year. This spring training. Now his value is not as high. Remember, he's not a young kid. He's about 25 years of age. Crawford begins to throw now. So now Pasqua, although he got a couple of base hits yesterday, one off the left-hander, value not as high, but perhaps he'll start hitting. Plus, with Mattingly's back, Bob, and you really don't know with backs. He says he's okay, but that's why they went and got Easler. That's why they went and got Salas and gave up Joe Niekro to Minnesota. Get that left-handed bat.
The Red Sox won it with pitching in '86 as much as with the bats of Rice and Evans and Boggs and Barrett and the others. With a front three of Clemens, Hurst, and Boyd, they were in great shape. What a difference a year has made. And that one misses too.
Yeah, they're 11th in pitching in team ERA in the American League this year. 10th, excuse me.
Here's the 2-0. 3-0. A pitch away from loading them up for Gary Ward.
If you're John McNamara with a hostile fandom here, with the team struggling now that the Celtics close their season, there's more focus on them. I mean, what do you do if you're Mac? You got a pitcher struggling. You used your whole bullpen last night, or just about.
He walks Winfield and Pasqua, and McNamara might as well be calling for the National Guard the way things have been going. Winfield and Pasqua on 8 pitches.
He's buying a little more time. He sends Dewey out, Dwight Evans, to buy a little more time for Steve Crawford. When's the last time he threw a strike? A couple of hitters ago?
Ward at 282. And his versatility has been valuable. He's played all 3 outfield positions today at first. And he takes a strike. Sarcasm on the part of the Fenway fans.
In Boston, it's the Bronx cheer.
Bases loaded, 1 out. 0-2.
He's gone his fastball. Maybe that's what Billy Fisher said. Hey, look, you can't throw your screwball or the curve over a slider. You better go fastball, even though you don't think you've got a good one. At least you're going to have them put the ball in play.
The only out Nipper managed produced a run. RBI grounder from Easler. Washington walked, Randolph doubled after Easler grounded out with Washington scoring. Winfield and Pasqua walked. Breaking ball hit in the air to center.
Whoa, Burks broke
stumbles. Back. Now coming in. Won't get it. It drops. 1 run scores and the bases remain loaded.
Alice Burks took 2 or 3 steps back, put the glasses down foul, and neither of the middle infielders could get back. Burks has excellent speed. And on a not a very good swing by Gary Ward, he broke back and got fooled. Then the ball got in the sun. You can see his shadow elongated behind him. Right now, the sun is bothering the center fielder. Later on, it'll bother the right fielder as the game progresses.
So here's Nipper struggling, trying to hang on and get through this first inning and find a groove. Needs some breaks, and instead has something like that happen. Paliarulo.
Well, he was just trying to prevent a big inning. That could have helped prevent a big inning. Now you don't know.
Had him out in front.
The local kid. He had a good day yesterday after struggling most of the year out of Medford, right down the road from Boston.
Yaz, of course, his idol growing up. A ball and a strike. Bases loaded. 1 out. 2 runs home. Top of the first.
Bob, when he's missing so far out that even a wild swinger couldn't reach him. He's not even giving them a chance to swing at something that's 6-8 inches off the plate.
That one was close, but it's 2-1. Beleaguered is an understatement.
I don't think his job is in jeopardy at all. Lou, you never know. I mean, that's a different situation, even though he's percentage points out of first place.
And he has a 2-year contract. The 2-1 is in there.
Look at the ball and strike count. Struggling is a mild word for Nipper so far.
He got a little piece of that and stays alive.
How many passes do you think Pags has here today? He was saying yesterday the game went to almost 1 o'clock, that Almost all of his family, and especially his family, went home for Mike Jr.'s 4 months old. He wanted to see him. He said, they missed one of my best days in Fenway.
Full house here today. Full count. Nipper, whose game is control, at least when he's on his game, has walked 3. Throw in a bloop single by Ward and a double off the wall from Randolph. And here comes the payoff to Paliarulo. It's well hit to center. Back goes Burks. He tracks it down. Winfield comes home. It's 3-0. And on to third goes Pasqua.
Nipper was just trying to throw a strike. Obviously, it was like a batting practice fastball, not a whole lot on it. And it almost fooled Paliarulo. The weight was almost gone, and yet he still drove it about 400 feet to the deepest part of the park. Should have been out of it right now. Just 2 runs, even though he's walked 3.
What was it Colonel Jacob Rupert once said, one-time owner of the Yankees back in the Murderers Row days?
Ray, tell me.
He said, my idea of a perfect day at the park, as Salas takes a ball, is for the Yankees to score 10 runs in the first and then gradually pull away. Well, they might not reach the late Mr. Rupert's fondest expectations, but they're off to a good start here. 3-0, and the possibility of more as Salas stands in. Off the fists, infield pop.
Look at the sun.
Owen drops the shades, battles it, and has it. 3 runs, 2 hits, 3 walks, a sacrifice fly. Nipper survives, but barely. A man who actually faced Tony Kubek in big league competition prepares to try his hand against these hitters. Burks in center field, Barrett at second base, Boggs, the major's leading hitter at 369, Rice, the cleanup man, Baylor, the DH, Dwight Evans, 8-time Gold Glove right fielder at first base with Bill Buckner on the disabled list with an injured hip, Henderson in right, Owen at short, Sullivan will catch, and the Yankee defense.
A very underrated defense. Of course, Henderson's not there, nor Mattingly, 2 outstanding chasers down to the baseball. Pasqua, Washington, Winfield, Paliarulo, Tallison, who's been more than adequate. He's played an excellent shortstop. They're marveling at what he's doing. Willie Randolph steady. Gary Ward at first base. Mark Salas catching TJ, who's been around forever. He doesn't throw any differently than he did 20-some years ago. Always had the good sinker, had a harder curveball. In fact, end of last year, Bob, he started throwing the ball inside to right-handers more. A little cut fastball that he picked up. Before that, he was always sinker, change of speeds. He will make you hit a lot of bad pitches. That's his success, and you can't lay off him.
At the age of 44, he's 7-2. Burks pushes a bunt up the first base line, foul.
Where they fear for Tommy at his age, and he's not very mobile anymore. Not your sveltest body, but he has almost gotten hit by line drives back at him. I'm worried about him getting out of the way of things when he keeps the ball out over the plate.
As impressive as the 7-2 record is, and he has designs on an all-star spot, check what he's done in his last 6 starts. He's 5-1, ERA 2.11 in his last half dozen outings. 1-1 to Burks.
He said he'd rather not be pitching it. I think he's got his 2 sons. You look at his lifetime record. Travis and Tommy pitching an all-star, playing in all-star games today.
Burks has shown surprising power. He's hit 10 out. Here's a drive to right. Winfield has a beat on it. 1 out in the bottom of the first. The sun is tough today.
It'll get worse in right field, which, like Yankee Stadium, the 2 toughest fields in the American League to play. Give you an idea of Tommy John right there. Ellis Burks, the kid, was ahead in the count 2-1. Tommy John threw him a fastball out of the strike zone, made him hit it to the bigger part of the ballpark. Still didn't give him a strike. He got like Early Wyndham late in his career. He plays on the anxiety of hitters say, hey, you're over anxious when you're ahead, and I won't give you a strike.
Barrett's at 237 and climbing. For a long time, he was around 200. He's begun to hit the last couple of weeks or so. Tommy John staked to a 3-0 lead in the first. In there, 1-1. John was 5-3 in an injury-marred 86, and his ERA was under 3 runs a game. So if he stays in one piece, he can get hitters out, no doubt about it. 2-1 to Barrett. Came up with the Indians in 1963. Big years with the White Sox, Dodgers, and Yankees, of course. Hopper to short. Here's Tolleson. 2 gone.
Wayne playing with a little tender throwing shoulder. Almost missed the ball game yesterday. Willie Randolph's played with how many? I lost track. 25, 30 shortstops during his career. You've seen Meacham about 7 or 8 different times, Andy. Finally, Tolleson has settled in.
Wade Boggs playing with a sore lower back. Really gave him trouble during batting practice today. But in the lineup with an average of .369. He's overtaken Alan Trammell for the American League lead. And if he gets a hit today, he ties Trammell for the longest hitting streak in the majors this year at 21. He was 3 for 5 last night.
He's been over 400 since being put in that number 3 slot by John McNamara. I think Wade got a little bit tired every time he went to arbitration. He's done it a couple of times, having management side said, you've never, as good as you are, you've never driven in 100 runs. He wants the stigma off. He'll take it off this year. He'll get his 100 plus.
2-2 to Boggs, who not only leads the league in hitting, but is tops in on-base percentage and total hits, and among the league leaders in slugging percentage at .582. Just missed full count.
Kind of hitter they pitch him according to the park as much as anything else. We saw him in Detroit. They ran the ball away so he wouldn't reach the short porch in right field. Here they'll pitch him inside a lot, make him pull the ball in the big park like that.
And here's Randolph on a nice easy hop. Perfect first for Tommy John. It's 3-0 Yankees, and we'll return to Fenway in just a minute. Folks, this telecast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. That will also be the case on the telecast to follow. The Astros and the Dodgers from the Dome, and Mike Scott, who's really in a groove of late, is scheduled to pitch for Houston. He struck out 14 in his last outing. Tim Leary will go for the Dodgers.
So pull up a chair for a good day of baseball.
Tolleson to start it. He's in the 9th spot. Ball one high from Nipper. Two and 0. Nipper walked 3 during a very rocky first.
Getting ahead of hitters is the secret of the success in pitching. He's not doing so hot, is he?
And for him, it's everything. He's got to be ahead. He's got to be on the black. He's got to be around the knees. And yet, he has been none of that so far. 3-0.
Yet he knows with his stuff, Bob, he's got to make a good quality pitch to get ahead. Because if he tries to go down the heart of the plate with not great stuff, he could get taken deep by this club in a hurry. It's not just throwing a first pitch strike. It's throwing a first pitch quality strike.
This is Nipper's 9th hitter. He's been behind on 7 of them. Toward the left field line and foul.
A left fielder and shortstop cannot take that area for granted. A high fly ball in that left field corner, no matter which way the wind is blowing, there's something about that corner that catches the wind and sweeps it back into fair territory. The shortstop's got to go out and play with a little carom as the left fielder goes protect the corner.
Here's the 3-2. And a bouncing ball to short. Owen up with it. Throws him out. As Claudell Washington heads for the batter's box, we head for New York. Here's Don Cricket.
Thanks, Bob. The first-place Reds came out of the gate quickly today at Atlanta. Leadoff hitter Cal Daniels teed off on a Doyle Alexander pitch for a home run, his 16th. Then the next batter, Tracy Jones, came up, and on the next pitch, another ball left the yard. Back-to-back home runs for Cincinnati. The Reds have now extended their lead in the bottom of the second inning to 4-0. Now back to Bob and Tony at Fenway Park.
All right, Don, thanks very much. Here's a slow hopper off Washington's bat. Boggs cuts in front of Owen and throws him out.
I'll say one thing, Bob. The fans got their work cut out voting for the All-Star team outfield for the National League. How do you pick an outfielder out of that? Tony Gwynn leading the league. Guerrero, Cal Daniels, Maldonado, Jeffrey Leonard, Murphy. And we haven't even mentioned Eric Davis, who's not in the top 10 in batting average, but he's as dominant a player as there is in the game. There's going to be some good outfielders left off that team, I would think.
With Daniels and Tracy Jones both connecting, I'm just guessing, but it seems as if Pete Rose has implemented his plan. Instead of platooning them in left, to put Jones in right, Daniels in left, and play Parker at first base.
Just when you're about ready to make that, Yasowski gets a couple home runs in the ball game and starts showing some of that promise they've been expecting from him. The pitching is going to decide whether they hang on in the West, Cincinnati.
A ball and a strike to Randolph, who doubled his first time up. One and two. Randolph has been the Yankee second baseman through all kinds of turmoil, all sorts of changes, from 1976 until the present.
He's been with Billy, what, 4 times?
He's seen 17 Yankee managerial changes, including Martin 4 times.
That looked like a knuckleball, first one he's thrown. One of the few times he's been ahead in the count that he could say, hey, here's a knuckleball. Try and hit it. Mark Sullivan, son of one of the owners of the ball club, Haywood Sullivan, a dear, dear friend of the late Dick Hauser. They grew up together in the West Palm area, spent a lot of time together in the Kansas City organization, along with Burt Reynolds. So Pops Haywood, along with Mr. Steinbrenner, a lot of other baseball people in Tallahassee at the funeral of Dick Hauser.
To say we send condolences to the Hauser family is so woefully inadequate. What an agonizing loss for baseball and for anybody who knew Dick Hauser as a person. And so often we've heard it said this week, a man's death doesn't change his life. Dick Hauser was so well regarded by everyone throughout baseball. Line drive, caught by Barrett at second base. So a possible confidence-building inning for Nipper, who sets the Yankees down in order with Barrett's help.
You know, Bobby, we closed the inning talking about the late Dick Hauser, and he used the expression when his team was down 3-1 to Toronto, then the Cardinals, and won a World Championship. And the last thing he said in spring training with his team was, let's get the job done. And he kept using that, and that's just what Marty Barrett is. He gets the job done. Not gifted with great talent. He's always in the right place at the right time. He makes a nice catch on the line drive.
Rice, troubled by a sore left knee, was twice hit by pitches on his left elbow this season. And so the numbers are so far beneath the lofty standards he's set. Wegman against Key, Milwaukee with the early lead against Toronto. Blue Jays scored 15 runs against them last night, including 9 in the 7th inning when the Milwaukee staff issued 6 walks.
Joe Morgan at third base. He's been in the Sox organization for a long time. Walter Riniak, disciple of the late Charlie Lau. Charlie, of course, worked for Dick and the Yankees. You know, Bob, they're concerned a little bit about Jim Rice. You talked about his knee a little bit, but a few years ago, he had some trouble picking up the ball. I'm not sure, you know, the expression is used, I can't find the ball. Sometimes I don't think he sees it well.
He found that and laces it to left, the first Red Sox hit.
The good fastball pitchers are starting to throw the ball by Jimmy. He's become very defensive. He has had the elbow problem, but some are concerned that whether it's the contact lenses don't fit or his eyes are weakening and he just can't pick up the spin on the ball. He's kind of taking very defensive swings at times.
Up steps Baylor at 231. Swing and a miss.
What's difficult to believe about this ball club, the Red Sox, is that they've hit just 65 home runs. And playing in this ballpark, only 2 teams have hit less in the American League, Seattle and Kansas City. They've each hit 61.
Back to John. Here's a play at second for 1. Randolph to first, and it's wild.
Got Baylor.
And Baylor's on his way to second base.
The ball seems to find Donnie, doesn't it? Even when he's running out first base.
Well, he's been hit by pitches. That's what you're alluding to. 241 times in his career, too shy of Ron Hunt's all-time record. And here he's struck by the throw from Randolph after they get the force at second and had time for the double play.
Ball just got away. I really wonder if Willie Randolph, with Rice barreling in, he wasn't close, was looking more at Rice than he was at his target at first base. And he probably looked down, took his eye off, and even a veteran player. It's been a strong suit for this Yankee team to help their pitching staff out, which isn't as weak as some people think. They've played pretty good defense. Fewest errors committed in the American League by this team.
Next best in that regard, the Red Sox. Yankees have made actually 42 errors, counting that one by Randolph, and that's the same total as the Red Sox have. So they're tied now for fewest in the American League.
There is a difference. Toronto has made few more errors, not many, but Toronto chases the ball down a lot better than either of these 2 teams. They have to on that turf. That could be the difference for Toronto. I mean, their pitching has been pitching well, and they've got some power. They've got a better bench, and especially bullpen, but the way they catch the ball will save them a lot of runs over the course of the whole season. Can't measure defense.
And a second, 1 out. And here's an 0-2 pitch to Dewey Evans. Line drive toward the gap in right center. It's in there. Around third, Baylor, he'll score. Winfield cuts it off and holds Evans to a single. Despite a lollipop throw back to the infield, it was over everybody's head. But Evans had no intention of advancing. He gets the RBI, and it's 3-1.
He just looked off speed. He got the little lollipop curveball, hit it to right center field. Willie Randolph is still standing on second base saying, why did I throw that ball away? I've had a good year defensively, and I cost us a run, or might have cost us a run.
Dave Henderson now. Lost his starting job in center to Ellis Burks. Playing in right today as they make the shift with Buckner out and Evans goes to first. On the outside corner for a strike.
Red Sox in a gradual transition. Trying to get the kid Todd Benziger up now. Switch hitter who can run a little bit, play the outfielder first. He'll get playing time as the season progresses. They moved in Ellis Burks. I think they'd like to see a few more arms in the high minor leagues to bring up the way their bullpen's going.
Spike Owen is on deck, and the 0-1 pitch outside. One thing Lou Piniella is almost certain of: he's going to get a decent outing every time he hands the ball to Tommy John. In 8 of his 12 starts, he's worked at least 6 innings and allowed 2 runs or less. And the Yankees have won 10 of the 12 games John has started. So he always keeps you in there and gives you a chance.
Draw, the man's elbow's only 13 years old. About ready to be bar mitzvahed. An elbow transplant.
There's a slow roll at a second. Evans makes a good play. The tag records the out, even though Willie dropped the ball. But Evans made a good play, stopping in the base path and forcing Randolph to tag him and giving Henderson enough time to get down there to first.
Once Willie froze him, just a little over a third of the way down, he could have flipped the first base and gotten the man on a rundown, but the ball popped out of his hands. You'd expect some players, and Willie, what's he, 32 or 33, after a long night last night, a day game, not to be quite as sharp. So he makes 2 little mistakes. Doesn't get 2 double plays in this inning, which is very unique for him, to say the least. I wonder if he's done that his entire career, and yet we've seen it in 1 inning.
Switch hitter Spike Owen from the right side against John. You mentioned Tommy John's arm operation performed in September of '74 by Dr. Frank Jobe out in Los Angeles, where they removed a tendon from his right forearm and used it in the reconstruction of his left elbow. First such operation ever on a professional athlete.
Dr. Jobe told him he'd never pitch again.
Nice play by Salas to prevent Henderson from advancing. And so Tommy John has in fact joked that he's going to have a bar mitzvah for his arm, which will be his new arm, 13 years old in September.
Look at the delivery of Tommy John. It's a very difficult delivery for a right-hander to follow. He throws across his body, cross fires. Nice play by Salas holding the runner.
Back to John, and that'll do it. The Red Sox get on the board. They trail 3-1, and we'll be right back after these messages from your local station. Former Yankee Red Ruffing is next, just ahead on the all-time list with 273 wins. If Tommy John, in fact, has a ceremony, a bar mitzvah for his reconstructed left arm, perhaps he'll take some pointers from John Lowenstein, the former Oriole. Lowenstein, noted prankster, gave a lengthy interview some years back to the Jewish Light, including elaborate details of his bar mitzvah. He neglected to inform them he isn't Jewish. Easler against Nipper takes the strike to start the third. 3-1 Yankees.
The way he pitched in the first, Nipper, you'd think he was out of the ball game. He's not. Unearned run. Is it Willie Randolph? See, when I mentioned about Randolph messing up 2 double plays in that one inning, I assumed that you would just have that on the tip of your fingers over the length of his career if he'd ever done it before, but no.
Hit toward third, and here's Boggs. Long throw, and he got it. Another trip to New York here to rejoin Don Criqui.
Thanks, Bob. Baseballs continue to leave the launching pad in Atlanta. Bruce Benedict just got the Braves back in it with his first home run of the season, a 2-run shot off Bill Gullickson, the 4th homer of the game. Cincinnati now leads 4-2 in the third. Back to Bob Costas and Tony Kubek in Boston.
Thanks, Don. Nipper has now retired 6 in a row. He was in deep trouble with the bases loaded, 1 out and 2 runs home in the first. And then he began his string of retiring 6 in a row on Paliarulo's long sacrifice fly. That brought Winfield home with the 3rd run, and he shut the door after that.
3 of the last 4 outs have been ground ball outs, so Nipper is throwing strikes and throwing strikes down in the strike zone.
This one is well hit, and Rice doesn't even budge. Goodbye.
No.
He was decoying everybody, including me, and Winfield is barely in there at second base. I mean, he didn't move an inch. And what he hoped to do was get Winfield into his home run trot, as well as embarrassing me. He succeeded on the latter score.
Well, the wind is blowing in, which kept it in the ballpark. And if you'd have been in this ballpark 30 years ago, you would have seen Ted Williams do the same thing. Now he says he's decoying me. He said, I better accelerate. And Jimmy did a good job, but didn't quite get him as Winfield really put the pedal to the floor. But I saw Williams do that 30 years ago. Saw Yastrzemski do that at least a dozen times in his career here. And Jimmy Rice almost held him to a single except for his speed. Pitch that was up in the strike zone after he'd been down pretty much the last 4 or 5 hitters.
So here's Pasqua. Winfield at second with 1 out. Curve in there. Pasqua walked back in the first. 1-1.
I can't remember, Bob, when I've heard Mickey Mantle rave about a guy like he did about Pasqua last year. I mean, he's a big admirer of all that Mattingly does, but he said, I've really never seen a guy that hits the ball as hard to all fields as Pasqua does. In batting practice, now he's questionable at his age. He's 25 now, not yet a kid, as to whether or not he can do it consistently. Some think his swing is too grooved. He can't adjust. It's the same swing after every speed of pitching. And they prevent him from adjusting to off-speed pitchers.
That's tapped foul, 1-2.
Another reason why, along with the back problems of Mattingly, the early slumps of Paliarulo and Pascal, who had just 2 RBIs for about the first couple of months in Yankee Stadium, the left-hand hitter's ballpark. That's why they went out and got Salas and Easler back. I don't know if he'd ever break out of the slump. He's showing signs of it now.
The home run and the double last night had to help his confidence. Nipper back to work, 1-2. Piniella was 92-70 in his Yankee debut, finished 5.5 behind the Red Sox in '86. Two-two pitch. Slow bouncer towards second. Barrett charges. Gets Pasquale on to third. Goes Winfield with 2 out.
That's what Nipper's so good at, when he can change speeds on the screwball. Throwing at varying speeds as he does his curveball, as he will his fastball, sneaking the occasional knuckleball.
Up comes Gary Ward, and don't look for him to flash a smile. He is all business when he comes to the ballpark. Almost a ferocious look on his face day in, day out. Outside to him.
Well, they're talking about Gary Ward as being the force in the clubhouse, especially with Ricky Henderson. Claudell Washington serves that purpose. He keeps jabbing Ricky, playing through injuries, like Baylor was last year for the Red Sox.
2-0. Ward, a late bloomer. Well, here's his quote about his disposition. And the 2-0 pitch. 3-0 to Ward, who never got as many as 300 at-bats in a season until he was 28 years old in 1982 for the Twins. Now 33, so really a late bloomer. And he's put some good numbers on the board in Minnesota, in Texas, and now here with the Yankees past 5 years or so. He walked him.
You know, with a 24-man roster, a guy like Ward becomes so much more valuable. He's played left, center, and right. He's played first base. DH him. Stop Merrill. Instructing Ward how many outs. Watch where the outfield's playing.
Paliarulo's homer in the 13th last night off Sambito, only the 4th homer Sambito has ever yielded to a left-handed hitter, and the first lefty hitter to get him since Bill Buckner back in 1978, when Buckner was with the Cubs and Sambito with the Astros.
Anything that bounces in the dirt with Winfield's speed and his aggressive base running, he may be coming.
A 1 pitch.
Mark Sullivan knows it. He asked for the appeal. On the third base umpire Tim Welke gives the safe sign. There's nobody runs the bases more aggressively than Winfield. I mean, he goes first to third. Talking to Gene Michael, who coached Winfield, he said, unquestionably the best base runner I've ever seen. He makes me look good. I can just keep waving, go on in, and he's almost safe 99% of the time.
Two on, 2 out, and 2-1 to Paliarulo. Well, he won't last 9 innings at this rate. 3-1. He's walked 4. Hasn't struck anybody out. Winfield at third, Ward at first, Crawford in the bullpen. 3-1 Yankees, top of the third. Check swing roller toward Boggs. All the way up here, you could hear Paliarulo's moan of disgust. Pitch was out of the strike zone, and he rolls out to third. The Yankees leave 2, and the score remains 3-1 New York. Graphic evidence of the way things have changed. 86-87 for the Red Sox. First in terms of some of their key bats. And in a minute, we'll let you take a look at what's happened to their pitching staff. There you go. Clemens has pitched better than the 5 and 6 indicates. He's thrown 3 shutouts, but still, he wound up 24 and 4. That's a plus 20. Boyd hasn't thrown yet. Will on Monday against Milwaukee. And look at the bullpen. Schiraldi couldn't come through in a save situation last night. Sambito pitched very, very well. Struck out 5 of the first 10 hitters he faced. But Sambito, whose nickname is 1/3 because he usually comes in to face just one left-handed hitter, isn't designed anymore to work 3-4 innings. And finally he tired, and the Yankees pounced on him in the 13th. All right, here comes Sullivan, hitting 162. Talk about how difficult it is to string 2 division championship seasons back-to-back. So many things can happen. Injuries, complacency, off years. That'll be foul down the right field line. Since 1978, when all 4 division winners from the previous season repeated, Phillies, Dodgers, Yankees, Royals. Since 78, there have only been 2 repeat division winners in the majors. The Yankees in 80 and 81. And you got to be suspicious of that anyway, because 81 was a strike season. And the Royals, 84, 85. And this year, of the 4 defending division champs, the only one playing even close to last year's pace would be Houston in the National League West. Shallow right, Winfield retires Sullivan. No team has fallen further from its pace of a year ago than the Red Sox, although the Mets, the defending world champs, have come close. And no team has rebounded as well as the Cardinals.
With all their troubles, the Mets just 6.5 games back of the Cardinals.
The plus and minus is not in regard to the standings, but in regard to their record at this time a year ago, just compared to their own record. Burks takes a strike.
You know, you look at Alice Burks, the kid's figures, going into today, 168 official at-bats. He's got 10 home runs. When you came into this ballpark years and years ago, the trademark was instant offense from the right-handed hitter with that left field wall.
Aliarulo, easy chance, 2 out.
You know, you look now at what is happening with guys like Baylor, guys like Evans, Henderson, and Rice. They've got about 900 plate appearances among the 4 of them, and they've got just 31 home runs. They seem to be content to hit the ball up the middle or to right center field. There's Sambito. Gave him a good job yesterday, and then he just got tired. He had the Tommy John operation also, as does Gary LaValle, who's coming back with Toronto this year. It's become almost a common procedure now. Sometimes they take it out of the calf as opposed to the wrist like they did with Tommy. You know, that takes so much burden off a pitching staff and a bullpen when you can hit that wall with your right-handed bats, but they seem to want to back off the plate and hit the ball up the middle. Go more for average than run production. And I guess that's why Walt Riniak's hitting theories have been criticized by a lot of people, including Ted Williams, who made the comment 2 springs ago the worst thing that happened to hitting, setting it back 25 years, was the Charlie Lau theory of hitting. It works for some average hitters, but I think home run production goes down.
John ahead of Barrett, 0-2. 2 out, nobody on. Last of the 3rd. 3-1 Yankees. Up and in, 1-2. The usual reminder here that at the end of the game, we'll select the NBC Miller Lite Player of the Game.
2 times in this inning when Tommy John's gone 0-2 to Sullivan, and then Barrett's come up and in with his hardest fastballs, but not for strikes. He's not going to get beat by that left field wall with a fastball inside. It's going to be inside, but off the plate, in or up.
How many is that for Murph? 21?
Man, he has really gotten hot.
22, John Filippelli, our producer, tells us.
Chuck Tanner's moved to right field. I mean, he's been a great player since then, but I think it's taken a little burden off Murph and will help him over the long run as far as offensively moving from center field.
There's a liner into center, a 2-out hit for Barrett.
Tommy didn't want to get that cut fastball in the strike zone. He wanted to go inside bad again, and he made it hittable for Barrett.
How hard do you think John's best fastball is?
You know, it's interesting. Talking to Mark Connor, the pitching coach, he said this year we've had Tommy on the radar gun. He said this is the accurate one, the Decatur that registers a true speed. He's been up to 86 miles an hour, and he said he hasn't seen 86 miles an hour. I mean, not all the time, but those fastballs he throws inside and cuts and on the fist. He hadn't seen 86 for probably 7, 8, 9 years. Can he do it for a whole season? That's the question with a guy his age.
Barrett running on the first pitch to Boggs. Throw from Salas. He's in there with the steal.
Tommy just took him for granted, and there's Marty Barrett again saying, I'll take what you give me. 2 outs, I'll get in scoring position. Even though I'm 2 runs down, Tommy doesn't have a good move, never has to first base, but he is so deceptive with a late kick, and he looks you back. It looks like he's going to first when he's going home, and Barrett wasn't fooling. He got in scoring position.
And it pays off. It's by Tallison, and here comes Barrett. The Red Sox are right back in the game. You asked Tommy John to name the toughest hitters he's faced, the toughest for him personally in his long career. He names Joe Morgan, Roberto Clemente, Billy Williams, and Wade Boggs.
Tommy might have been a little bit flustered, allowing Barrett to steal. I mean, it didn't matter a whole lot with Boggs up there. He's hit so well with men in scoring position his entire career. Even hitting out of the number 1 spot, although since he's been in the 3 spot, about 40 points less with men on base in scoring position than he has over his career.
And Boggs has now hit in 21 consecutive games, tying Trammell for the longest streak in the majors this year. A shot to right off Rice's bat, but Winfield's there, and that'll do it. So Barrett with a 2-out single and a stolen base, and Boggs knocked him home. The Red Sox are within 1. Nipper has known his share of adversity, illness, and injury. He's had a low red blood cell count, an ulcer problem. This year he was conked on the head, shagging flies in the outfield and knocked cold. And how about this? A little more than a year ago, Larry Parrish of the Rangers tries to score. Nipper covers the plate, and watch what happens. He's spiked by Parrish, a deep laceration in the area of his right knee. He was out for several weeks, and Dr. Arthur Pappas, the Red Sox team physician, said an inch or two either way, there could have been major ligament damage, and it would have been adios. Salas fouls it back as we start the 4th.
You know, Nipper came back without a rehabilitation for that injury in the minor leagues, and one day he went to McNamara and said, I'm ready. He ran out of starters. Hurst had the groin pull. Oil Can, I don't know what he was involved in, but he made a very big start for him. I believe it was against the Yankees, and really uplifted the team.
In his career against the Yanks, Nipper is 3-3. The Yankees have had the better of the rivalry, perhaps the most bitter rivalry right now in all of baseball, in the 80s. Swing and a miss. He gets Salas for his first strikeout. Last year, the Yankees won 8 of 13 from the Red Sox, including 6 or 7 here at Fenway. In the 80s, they've beaten Boston 48 times while losing 37. Salas goes down swinging on the curveball.
They want Salas to move up on the plate to take advantage of his ability to pull the ball in Yankee Stadium. And I think when he's up on the plate, like, he becomes vulnerable to that slider down and in below the hands, or the fastballs inside. But they said, get jammed. Get your stroke ready for Yankee Stadium. You're going to hit some home runs there.
I'd say, Tony, now that the Dodgers and Giants no longer occupy the same city, although that's still a good rivalry in California, the two best,
Cubs and Cardinals,
Cubs and Cardinals in the National League, and these two teams in the American. Tallison is thrown out by Nipper.
Well, you could see it here last night. Full house. I mean, there were more than half the people stayed for that ball game that went 13, almost ended at 1 o'clock. And this series was probably sold out after the end of last year. I mean, tickets are completely unavailable.
Of course, one of the many scars on the psyche of a Red Sox fan has to do with a transaction between these clubs back in 1920. As Washington takes a ball, that's when Harry Frazee, trying to finance one of his Broadway productions, sold Babe Ruth to Colonel Rupert and the Yankees for $100,000.
Who was one of those left-handers who was very, very successful in this ballpark before he turned to hitting. It was Mel Parnell and Bill Lee. Running for the presidential ticket on the Rhinoceros Party. Old Bill out of Moncton, Canada, huh?
What was part of Bill Lee's presidential platform? He said that if elected, he plans to turn the White House into a Mexican restaurant. So if you need a burrito when you're on Pennsylvania Avenue, that'll be extremely convenient.
The spaceman. What do you win? 17 games, 3 consecutive years for this team?
3-1 pitch to Claudell Washington. Full count. Winfield's double high off the green monster and left in the third, and this one is laced toward right center. Burks is going to track it down, and so Winfield's double in the third is still the only hit the Yankees have off Nipper since his troubled first inning, and the Red Sox have gotten back into it in the meantime. A recent George Steinbrenner assessment of his skipper. A left-handed compliment if there ever was one.
Well, it's like setting Charlie Hudson down, finding Willie Randolph a few years ago, saying what he did about Mattingly when he got just under $2 million in the contract. He's a wealthy wood tick, Mr. Steinbrenner. He likes to kind of get under your skin a little bit and try and, egg you on to perform better. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
And generally speaking, George has been very low-key, at least for him this year. Very few back-page headlines in the New York tabloids.
That fight that they were talking about in the Atlanta ball club, Cincinnati, they had one in Milwaukee the other day that got Joe Niekro out. He won 2-0 for Minnesota since leaving the Yankees in the Salas deal. Shoulder separation. Says he'll miss 1 or 2 starts, but with something like that in your throwing shoulder, who knows? Started on a hard slide to Gantner at second base. Either Gagne or Lombardozzi, and all of a sudden here it comes, and Niekro challenged Rob Deere, which might have been a mistake.
Might have been a mistake. 1-1 to Baylor.
And he becomes very important to the Twins' pennant chances, and if he can't pitch, he gave up a pretty good hitting catcher to get him.
John started out with a 3-0 lead. He's given 2 back. Here we are in the last of the 4th, and a breaking ball just misses 2-1. Told me yesterday as this one is lined off Paliarulo's glove, almost a spectacular play, and Baylor is on.
If he lets that ball goes foul. It was hit so hard, and he was playing Baylor right on the line because Tommy John with the off-speed pitch, you're going to react to get the ball. I'm not saying he had time to even think. I'm going to catch it, and look at where it is. His glove is probably in foul territory right on the line. It was hooking so fast, the third base umpire, Welke, was way out in foul territory, getting out of the way. So what looked like a foul ball, he probably got a verbal sign from Tolleson, the shortstop, that it was an off-speed pitch, a breaking ball, so he was cheating toward the line. It looked like it was going to be a great play. It might have been a mistake.
Evans had a single and an RBI back in the 2nd inning. A bounce to the short, could be 2. That's 1, that's 2. And speaking of that fight in Atlanta, I think Don Criqui has the details. Donald?
Thanks, Bob. After giving up back-to-back homers to Murphy and Griffey, Bill Gullickson of the Reds nailed Andres Thomas with a pitch, and the match was on. The bench is empty. Gullickson and Thomas were ejected, and the Braves, who trailed 4-0, have battled back to lead 7-4 in the bottom on the top of the 4th inning now. Here's Bob and Tony at Fenway.
Thanks, Don. Henderson steps in. Started to say about McNamara, talking to him yesterday about his role as the American League's all-star manager. Strike 1. There's some controversy about the selection of the pitchers. Mac will turn it over to Bobby Brown, the league president, because one of his own, Roger Clemens, is a marginal candidate and has a huge incentive clause in his contract if he makes the all-star team. Another issue, all-time great players who aren't having all-star caliber years, especially Reggie Jackson, who doubtless is in his last season, and the game is being played in Oakland. And Mac acknowledged that he and Bobby Brown have discussed the possibility of adding Reggie to the squad as an honorary member. 1-2.
Clemens is 8th in the American League of Team ERA, coming off a 12 strikeout, no walk performance, shutout his last outing. And I think off last year alone and what he's done this year, he deserves to be there. I think Dr. Brown should take the burden off McNamara's shoulder right now and say, Clemens is on the All-Star team. Or if he doesn't, I think McNamara should say, here's my list of pitchers, including Hurst and Clemens and Key and maybe Clancy or Hanky or whomever else.
Morris,
yeah, and Saberhagen, obviously. You whittle it down, and I think Mac would really do some PR for his pitcher and for his team.
John takes care of Henderson, and we'll be right back after these messages from your local station.
For Father's Day, Burt Reynolds wants to have a baby, but he doesn't want to get married. Will Burt get more than he bargained for? Paternity, Sunday.
Speaking of Reggie Jackson, it was 10 years ago this week that this scene unfolded here at Fenway. Billy and Reggie going at it after Reggie, according to Billy, didn't hustle after a bloop hit by Jim Rice. He yanked him from right field right in the middle of the inning. The late Elston Howard eventually stepped in. There's Ellie in the middle and separated them, but Billy really wanted to go at it. And despite the size difference, with Billy's reputation as a scrapper, I'm not so sure that Reggie would have been a prohibitive favorite. Randolph against Nipper in the 5th. Bounces it foul. It's 3-2 Yankees.
That was Al Nipper's 79th pitch. Comparison, 4 innings. Tommy John just 49, and most of Tommy's have been strikes. Now Nipper's gone a little bit in the balance as far as throwing more strikes than balls, but just barely.
And his 0-1 pitch.
Ow. Oh! That might have been a knuckleball that hit the bat.
It did hit the bat, not the helmet.
I don't think there was it looked like a knuckleball that just got away. Willie was lucky. He ducked his head, but gets a foul ball on it. Let's see if we can see the grip. Yep, you can see the grip coming out of the glove. It's a hard Nipper knuckleball, and that grazed the helmet. It hit his helmet before the bat, didn't it? He should be on first base. Didn't it look like it ticked the helmet?
Well,
that angle might have been deceptive with that glare off the helmet.
Very hard to tell from this
That's
angle.
A great shot, but boy, I wonder if Willie didn't even feel it. It sure looked like it changed directions off the helmet and hit the bat, but it's a foul ball. The umpire saw it.
Joe Brinkman, the plate umpire. Terry Cooney at first. Ken Kaiser at second. Tim Welke at third. Back into the glove of Sullivan for the strikeout.
Now Willie's saying he didn't make contact with that one. He's having a little discussion with Joe Brinkman. Joe says, hey, that's the way I teach at my umpiring school. We listen. We don't always just see, we listen. And I heard it tick your bat. Or is he saying that Willie went around too far?
There's a guy who could manage someday in the big leagues, Willie Randolph, don't you think?
Well, he's become so much tougher than he was when he came out of the Pirates organization. Pitches way out of the strike zone, a sweeping breaking ball. He's out.
Easler has grounded out twice. The first one produced a run. The hitman is 36 years old now. He's been with the Cardinals, the Angels, the Pirates, the Red Sox, the Yankees twice, the Phillies. Here's Dwight Evans, easy play, 2 gone.
The ordained preacher, Mike Easler, first thing this morning, called up John McNamara. There was an article that came out here that made it sound as though Easler wasn't happy with the treatment he got from John McNamara, and he was a little bit upset. He thought things were taken out of context, and he immediately called John this morning and said, John, you know me. I didn't say those things. It came out wrong the way it was written. John said, yeah, I do know you. I knew you wouldn't say it. So they straightened it out.
Winfield walked and doubled. He and I both thought his shot in the 3rd inning was out of here, and Rice decoyed us both. He didn't move a millimeter, just stood there. And Winfield was at the plate admiring it, while Rice, just like that, never turned around until the ball hit off the top of the wall. And it was a very close play at second base. Winfield finally got wise and really tore out of the batter's box and beat the throw to second.
The last pitch got a lot of Joe Brinkman. I don't know if it was a hard knuckleball or if Mark Sullivan got crossed out. Joe Brinkman and Harry Wendelstedt in the National League each have umpiring school. And they'll tell you with the new contract they just negotiated with the commissioner's office that the job does have its negatives, but salary structure per diem's gone up, so I think with all the heat they get, I still can't tell if he, right in a mask, had never caught any part of Mark Sullivan's glove. It was either a hard knuckleball, couldn't see the rotation, or Sullivan was looking breaking ball and Nipper threw a fastball.
2 out, nobody on in the top of the 5th. And 2-0 to Winfield.
Baseball's Rodney Dangerfield right here, who gets no respect. What he does is drive in 100 runs a year. The things that go unnoticed, play right field as well as anybody in the game and run the bases as well as anybody.
3-0. He hit .262 last year, his lowest full season average as a big leaguer, but he still hit 24 homers and drove home 104. This year he's at .292, 15 homers, 48 RBIs, and that's a strike at the knees.
Brinkman won't like that.
Not at all.
Winfield ordinarily doesn't do that. He just thought it might have been too low, I believe. And thought it was a sure base on balls. The old automatic. A 6'6" guy. That is not a strike. It's the automatic. It's way below his knees. Ted Williams used to have his pants down low. He'd go to the umpire before a game and socialize and say, now here, you point to my knees. And they always pointed too low. And then he'd say, now here's where my top of my knees really are. He got that low strike in a very diplomatic way.
Winfield eventually gets the walk, the 5th, issued by Nipper. Speaking of lanky guys, if the Yankees ever wanted to put together an off-season basketball team, I think they could beat any other club in the majors. They'd have a front line of Dennis Rasmussen, who's 6'7", and played at Creighton. As a matter of fact, played against Larry Bird. Tim Stoddard, who's 6'7 plus and was on that NC State team that won a national title with David Thompson, Monty Tao, and Tom Burleson. And Winfield, who played at Minnesota.
Sad part is they'd have to play against baseball's Michael Jordan, as Peter Gammons calls him. You've seen Eric Davis jump, haven't you?
Oh, man.
He might beat them all himself.
Davis firmly believes that with about 2 months worth of practice, he could play in the NBA right now.
Well, you believe that, and we all know that's erroneous, so what he believes has nothing to do with it.
And a strike to Pasqua. For reserve strength, the Yankees could also throw in Rich Bordy, who's 6'7", working out of their bullpen.
Jay Ward out of the Cincinnati organization has been the Yankees hitting instructor. Piniella brought him in, but they've just put Bobby Mercer to work with some left-handed hitters in uniform.
Evans backhands, strolls to the bag, and that'll do it. No runs, no hits. A Winfield walk, and a man is left. Nipper has settled down, and he's locked in a duel now with Tommy John. Dodgers-Astros next with Mike Scott scheduled for Houston. Vince Scully and Joe Garagiola to call it. Second half of the doubleheader on NBC.
Scott ever pitched a bad game? What's his ERA? 2.11? It's almost like a dinosaur. ERA's below 3 in baseball anymore. Whatever happened to pitching duels? We got one going now, I think. You don't see many 1-0 scores, 2-1. 15 runs yesterday. Scored by Toronto, 16 by another team. We were talking about this alleged lively baseball. Billy Fisher, Vince Orlando, who's been around since Babe Ruth's time in the clubhouse for the Red Sox, said they cut one open and said it's not cork center, folks. It's rubber with Flexicork in it. That's what they're saying.
Spike Owen drives one to deep center. Claudell Washington goes back to the track, and he makes the catch. And Spike Owen is not what you call your muscular hitter.
I mean, the wind is blowing a little bit straight in from left. It's varying a little bit, and that ball just keeps on going. Almost 400 feet away off the bat, a little Spike Owen. Nautilus does that. Claudell not accustomed to playing center field. In fact, he was worried about doing it with a pulled groin muscle, but Lou Piniella said, give it a try. We need you out there for your bat. Whatever you chase down is fine with us.
George Sullivan takes a ball. Both of McNamara's catchers are hitting under 200, and they have one homer between them. That belongs to Sullivan. Skied to right. Here's Winfield. 2 out.
Well, Terry Kennedy is the front runner of the All-Star balloting for the American League. He's around 280. He's learning the league. He's hitting well for Baltimore, as a lot of other people are falling apart around him. When you try and fill out a complement of catchers in the American League, who do you go to? Noakes, obviously, hitting a nice home run here. He's platooning. Gedman, I mean, he's hitting 180 and has struggled with the bat and the glove. And Ernie Whitt platooning, hitting pretty well for Toronto. You know, it'd be hard to find 3 All-Star catchers to fill that roster in Oakland.
Well, Noakes, as a rookie, isn't on the ballot. You got to write him in. Kennedy is way in front. He'll easily win the balloting. The outfielders, as we mentioned. There you see Ellis Burks outdoing Jim Rice so far this year. 2-0. The outfielders leading in the balloting: Henderson, Winfield, Puckett, with Bo Jackson in 4th place. That shows you what publicity and hype can do. Not that Jackson won't be an All-Star someday.
Allen Barfield are moving up.
Hopper over Paliarula. And Burks is on with 2 out here in the 5th.
Because of the speed of Ellis Burks hitting in that leadoff spot, as long as he's successful there, Boggs stays in the 3 slot. Because of that speed, Pags playing up in front of the bag on the grass, and the hard pan in front of home plate, gets it out in the left field. Red Sox have stolen just 24 bases, been caught 19 times. Burks has 8 steals of those 24, been caught once.
Here's Barrett, who singled and stole a base in the 3rd.
Make it 25 steal. Barrett's. He sneaked off and he was down by 2 runs and caught Tommy John napping. Both National and American Leagues on record paces as far as balks being called on teams this year, and the National League is way ahead.
And Burks chased back again. To complete the thought about the All-Star balloting, Kennedy the catcher, Mattingly way in front, with Joyner and Murray trailing among first basemen. Closest race is at second base, where Whitaker has a very slim lead on Randolph. Boggs has the huge lead at 3rd over George Brett. There he goes. Barrett bluffs the bunt. Good throw. In there anyway. Good throw from Salas, though.
Joel Skinner was the guy who got sent down in the minor leagues. They expected to do a big bulk of the catching. He got sent down a while ago when they made this trade. Salas throws well, but times a little slow in his delivery. In the American League, not as much of a premium. There are a lot of teams that do not steal. Detroit doesn't do a whole lot of stealing. Toronto will. Baltimore certainly doesn't. Boston doesn't. Not as much of a premium on a good throwing catcher here. So Burks now 9 out of 10.
And in scoring position, carrying the tying run with 2 out in the last half of the 5th. 3-2 Yankees.
And about those balks, 111 called in the National League, 55 in the American League before today's action.
Down and in, 1-1. The only remaining position we didn't touch on, shortstop, and that's an interesting one in the American League. Ripken, a huge lead over Tony Fernandez. They both deserve to be there. But what about Alan Trammell? And Julio Franco and Scott Fletcher are each hitting over 300.
Well, I think Franco, Trammell, and Fernandez should be there. Fernandez just pushed his average up about 50 points, it seems like, in a few weeks.
That's a strike, and Barrett didn't think so. 1-2.
Tommy John, because he plays with the outside corner, does get a lot of pitch from all kinds of umpires. He's established a reputation being a pitcher who is near the plate on the outside edge. and near the knees. So those pitches that are right at the knees, a little bit off the plate or a little bit low, he's going to get more often than not. Now that he's in, he may go farther out.
Breaking ball hit toward the hole. Backhanded by Tollison to save a run. Burks is held at third.
He's a great little athlete. He was a wide receiver in college. And again, he played the pitch and location. Had Tommy John run a fastball away, he'd have been playing more to the middle of the diamond leaning. This was a breaking ball down and in, a pitch that Marty Baird had to pull as long as it was down. And he anticipated, almost like a great tennis player, anticipating a cross-guard volley or down the line, and he slid into the hole before the ball left the bat, and he saved a run. That slow grass, no way they were going to throw him out in 2 outs at Burke's speed at home plate. Now the fat gets hotter, though, doesn't it? And this guy up.
Boggs had an RBI single as last time. He's 1 for 2, hitting streak of 21. Breaking ball, a strike. John trying to survive an attack of the killer bees. Burks at third, Barrett at first, Boggs at the plate. In the air to left. Slow start for Pasqua. Doesn't get there. Fair ball. And it bounces into the stands. Barrett has to stop at third, but Burks has come across with the tying run.
He wanted to. He ran a hard sinker in on the fist of Boggs. And great hitters get more of these kinds of hits than anybody else because they're always putting the ball in play. Boggs was jammed. Tommy John saying, I made a good pitch I wanted to, talking to Mark Connor's pitching coach. And they've had committees of pitching coaches here. Torberg helps out in the bullpen. Stan Williams, who throws BP, works with some pitchers before the game, then he goes out of uniform. See Torberg on the walkie-talkie. Rich Bordy begins to throw. Bordy and Stoddard have done a pretty good job with those hard sliders and throwing the ball very crisply. The person they're worried about is Righetti, who's in another one of those June funks. He is squandering save opportunities like he did last year in a stretch, but when the second half of the season started, that guy saved 28 of the last 29 possibilities in a half a season. That's almost better than what Willie Hernandez did an entire year. 32 out of 33 and 84? He did in 3 months.
Righetti has saved 14 this year, but blown 8 save opportunities, including last night, though the Yankees did eventually win the game. Here's Rice. Strike one.
You know, today, showing Righetti a while ago, today is the anniversary date. 1 year ago today is when Righetti, out of frustration, hurled the baseball from the mound over the right field fence in Toronto, and then he went on a run.
A 1 pitch.
Oh, what a play.
Salas snatches it to prevent the wild pitch.
Right there could be some evidence of the 44-year-old John starting to tire. He tried to make it throw a little extra. Now, he does have first base open with Baylor up next, so he can afford to pitch around Rice. But trying to overthrow, he didn't just miss outside. He misses outside about 8 feet. Almost throws it to the backstop. Dropped down a little too much. Maybe the shoulder's tiring.
Salas, whose reputation is as a DH type, has played well with the glove today. Saved John a couple of wild pitches. Hit toward the hole, and it's through. 1 run in. Boggs being waved home. Ahead of Winfield's throw. Rice to second. He's in there. After trailing 3-0, it's 5-3 Boston.
Very surprised that Tommy John gave Jimmy Rice a hittable pitch. A breaking ball right down the middle. He's tired, and this is an indication that bullpen was worked hard by both managers. He might have been out of there to Rice and Baylor. Bordy pitched a lot lately, and then Winfield makes a rare mistake for him defensively. Way offline, but overthrows Ward, the cutoff man, and Rice took advantage and breezed into second base. Single, 2 RBIs, goes to second base on the throw. So he's in scoring position on the Winfield mistake throw. I just don't believe Tommy John wanted to make a pitch that good, or any pitch in the strike zone, let alone right out over the place and up for Rice. Now with first base open.
All of it with 2 out. Baylor. Bouncing ball up the middle. Tollison can't get it. Here comes Rice. It'll be 6-3. And John might be finished. Here comes Piniella.
A mistake by Winfield, missing the cutoff man, but also the alert base running with 2 outs by Jim Rice, taking advantage of the errant throw by Winfield and going into second base. And Rice did it with a bad knee. Here comes Lou, who does not have a lot of patience with pitchers. Why Charlie Hudson's in the minor leagues, and Tewksbury will start tomorrow.
Speaking of Charlie Hudson, the Yankees haven't had a complete game in almost a month and a half since Hudson pitched one on May 10th. They won't get one today.
You don't see Tommy John as irritated as this right now. He was really mumbling and groaning and grumbling when he went off the mound.
4 runs after 2 out and nobody on here in the last half of the 5th. Staked to a 3-0 lead. John leaves trailing 6-3. Here is the former Mariner, Cub, and Oriole, Rich Bordy, and there are his numbers. If you're Tommy John, you've really got to be frustrated. 2 out, nobody on. And here's the way the trouble begins. Burks bounces one over Pagliarulo's head, and it's an easy play if Pags isn't in close to protect against the bunt. So now he's on. He steals second, and Barrett gets an infield single, hit pretty sharply, backhanded by Tollison to prevent it from going through. You make a good pitch on Boggs, and he bloops a double down the left field line. Here's Evans facing Bordy and taking a strike. Then Rice grounds one between Randolph and Ward, not hit all that hard, and Baylor sends a bouncer up the middle. 4 runs come across, and you're gone.
The irony of it, 3 consecutive years, the Red Sox have been last in stolen bases. Twice today they've stolen second with 2 outs, and they both scored and helped either get rallies going or keep them going. By Burks, of course, and by Marty Barrett earlier.
2 good breaking pitches put Bordy ahead of Evans, 0-2.
Fastball not bad, but basically slider, curveball. More sliders to right-handers than curves. You'll throw the curve a little bit more to left-handed hitters.
There he goes. Off the fist. The ball just dies on the grass. Evans might beat Ward. He did.
Get him.
Ward says he tagged him, and here we go.
We might see Lou in this one, and we may not see Lou much longer. He is storming after what's happened. The first base umpire, Terry Cooney, appeared to have a good angle. Whether or not Ward touched the diving Evans on the jersey or on the back, we can't tell. It was a 2-strike count. Baylor was off. He figures if he gets thrown out, Evans, a good on-base percentage, leads off the next inning. Evans got jammed terribly, just almost shattered his bat. And then Bordy was late getting over, like Rigetti last night on Gedman.
This ball had some reverse action, and it just died on the grass. Didn't get to Ward quickly, and Evans goes around him. And Cooney says Ward missed him, and it looks as if he got him on the foot. After missing his body, it looks like he got him on the foot.
I think that's where Terry Cooney's focus was, to see if he tagged him on the back. He may have even gotten him there, and then again got him on the ball. He may have touched him twice, both times before he reached the bag, but the Red Sox still have something going.
I think he missed his back, but he definitely got his left foot.
We got about 3-4 different angles on this. Good camera work, guys. Harry Coyle, the master directing, along with John Filippelli, our producer. Cooney's in a good spot. It's one of those places you get an argument either way, no matter how close it is. He's got a good angle, as you see. He just couldn't tell whether he brushed him or not. He didn't hit him firmly, but he may have brushed him.
Henderson is the 9th man to bat in the inning. before the game today, John McNamara was lamenting about the disheartening number of runners the Red Sox have left on base. He says, just once, I like to see a string 4 or 5 hits together in a row. Well, 6 straight hits after 2 out in this inning. And here's a high fly to left that'll put an end to it. Pasqua in. They leave 2, but they score 4. And they take a 6-3 lead after 5. One more look at it. You be the judge as we bring you another edition of Baseball Remembers.
Carl Yastrzemski remembers winning the Triple Crown in the Boston Red Sox impossible dream year of 1967.
I've always said winning the Triple Crown, I would have never won the Triple Crown in 67 if we weren't involved in a pennant race, because you weren't thinking about winning a Triple Crown. You were going to the plate, taking one at bat at a time and hitting what the situation called for to help win a ball game. And when we had won the pennant in 67, that was on my mind. I never dawned on me until the next day. I picked up the paper, and the paper says, yes, wins Triple Crown. You just didn't think about it. When you're involved in a pennant race, that's the ultimate in sports.
Tony, you've got a book out this summer written with Terry Pluto called 61 about that season, the great Yankee team, Roger Maris's record. But where were you in the off season, after 61 and before the 62 season?
I was on PKP.
Does this
permanent KP in the military?
That is exactly right. Does the following photo jog your memory at all? Here we see Tony Kubek in November of 1961, obviously assigned to an elite intelligence unit, hard at work defending our nation's security and honor.
Latrine duty was a very important part. The movement with SAC or in the military. I mean, they didn't just send me to the infantry to protect your country. And I know you went immediately out. You know, I was recalled to service and bought Russian war bonds.
Might have been a good investment under those circumstances. All right, here's Ward. And Nipper starts him with a strike. Terry Cooney making the call down at first.
I'll say one thing. If that last inning showed anything with Evans diving to first, it shows that the Red Sox, they're scuffling, as we said, hitting in every other way, pitching. They surely haven't given up on John McNamara. I mean, Evans diving into first base as he did and stealing bases when you're 2 down. They have a great deal of respect for Johnny Mac.
Nipper, who might have been a hitter away from being gone in the first inning when the Yankees scored 3, suddenly has a 6-3 lead. He asked me before the game to extend happy Father's Day wishes to his dad, Fred, back in the St. Louis area. So it's done, Al.
He covered all the bases. He talked to me about that also. He did say, do it early. And he was kidding, but he almost got out of that ball game when he walked 3 in the first inning. A misplay by Burks in center field when he broke back. And somehow he averted a big inning. He gave up 3, but it looked like he might give up 6 or 7 to this Yankee team.
Breaking ball high. I told him I was going to make him work for it. I told him I wouldn't mention it until the 6th. So he had to last at least 5. So he earned it, and happy Father's Day to Fred Nipper. 2-2. Got him.
He's throwing a little bit harder now. As many pitches he's thrown in this hot weather, he's really loosened up. He had pitched after that first inning. He threw a lot of breaking pitches that were out of the strike zone, couldn't get anything. Then he went to a few more fastballs when Billy Fisher made that trip out in the first inning. Then he went back to the off-speed stuff, and now they're sitting in off-speed stuff that made that fastball look that much better out of the strike zone. Got Ward. Oh, here's a little lollipop.
By the way, that photo of you hard at work during your military days was sent by one of our viewers, Tom Tobin, in Jacksonville, Florida. We thank him for thinking of us. And Tom, of course, was particularly impressed by that very sharp crew cut you were sporting in those days.
The age of crew cuts. Mickey had his hair closely cropped. Roger the crew cut. Moose and Hank Bauer still got it. Well, Hank wasn't on that team.
2-1 now to Pags. And speaking of Roger Maris, our best to all the folks in Fargo, North Dakota. Tomorrow is the 4th annual Roger Maris Golf Tournament. A high fly, right field. Easy play for Henderson.
Look out, not so easy.
Not so easy with that sign, but he stays with it.
This is the field. When Babe Ruth came in here, he would not play right field here, and he would not play left field in Yankee Stadium. He got away from the sun. Those are the days, I believe, before sunglasses. He said, come on out, please. Come on out. Like Al Kaline, who used to have an open web glove and look through the webbing aside from the glasses to block out the sun's rays. Yeah, the money for Pat Maris has been so active, and the Savageos out there in Fargo. That money's going to a very worthy cancer organization. Look out,
Foul right back toward us.
Hospice who deal with terminally ill cancer patients, and they tell people how to handle a very delicate situation, and it's really a wonderful, wonderful organization.
Fargo, of course, Roger Maris's hometown, and each year they have a golf tournament in his memory. One and one to Salas. 2 out, nobody on, top of the 6th. After leading 3-0, the Yankees trail 6-3. They begin the day 4 percentage points back of Toronto in the East.
You know, that game last night, Bobby, it was a wild one through 13 innings, but it showed what this series means to each manager and to these two towns, because they played it like it was the 7th game of the World Series. A lot of pitching changes, a lot of flipping of lineups, and the bullpens are tired.
Though he hasn't played it much, Evans is a pretty good glove down at first. We'll be back.
One of our production person's sons, Peter, just 8 months old. Peter Overginian, who didn't get 3 squares today, so he came out to check the lively balls. Did a little scuffing in case he becomes a pitcher. Got a good curveball, cut fastball, sinks it on occasion, and changes speeds very, very well. 8 months old. Can't say Happy Father's Day yet to Pops, but that picture says it. We're in the bottom of the 6th. Red Sox batted around in the 5th. Scored 4 runs on 6 base hits. Spike going. He's out Randolph to Gary Ward. 6-3 Red Sox. The Yankees threw 3 on the board off Nipper in the first. He walked 3 and scuffled. Bad play behind him. The old hand-operated scoreboard. Only one other like it, and that's in Wrigley Field, Chicago. There's the line as the Red Sox coming back 6-3 over the New York Yankees. Last score we had up in Toronto against Milwaukee, 6th inning, Toronto 2, Milwaukee 1. 1 out, Mark Sullivan to Rich Bordy, who relieved Tommy John. They didn't exactly mash the ball on John in the 5th, but they got him out of the ball game. Check swing, breaking ball. Bordy to Gary Ward. A couple of quick outs. Owen and Sullivan. Brings up Alice Burks, young center fielder who's 1 for 3 with a stolen base and a run scored.
Anything happen while I was gone?
Couple ground outs. Owens a 4-3. Randolph to Gary Ward. I think you caught the tail end of Rich Bordy retiring Mark Sullivan. You're up to date. Anything important? An emergency?
You do have that journalist's natural inquisitiveness, don't you? Why don't you just finish the inning? It's belonged to you thus far. Swing and a miss by Burks. Here's Mr. Cooper.
I remind you talked about books a while ago. Red Barber's last line in his books, instructions to young broadcasters, is go to the bathroom before the game starts. 2 outs. Alice Burks. Paliarulo played him up tight with 2 outs in the 5th, and he bounced one over his head. He's not quite as close this inning. Slider strike.
When Red Barber was broadcasting, the average game was over in about 2 hours. It wasn't in the 6th at the 2-hour mark, with the possibility of lasting another couple.
Here you are. You say, take the rest of this inning, you butt in on me. Foul back out of play. You may do some color commentary if there is any validity or any analysis whatsoever to your commentary. Lou Piniella, who looked like he might have a laugher. And they got 3 in the first inning. And John McNamara, ever patient, has seen games frittered away in every possible way. Moves him back. 1-2 with 2 down, 6-3 Boston. I'm going to get a chance to practice on a few hitters. What my mentor, Kurt Gowdy, taught me. He's going to be doing Patriots football for the radio station that he started with this fall. Lives right outside of Boston area, Wellesley Hills. Breaking ball inside. Paliarulo off the heel of his glove. Long throw. He won't get Burks. So with that speed, Ellis Burks down at first base with 2 outs again. There were 2 outs in the 5th. They scored 4. He could be on the move. Bobby, take it.
Well, it was the hit by Burks that started the string of 6 consecutive hits for the Red Sox after 2 out in the 5th and chased Tommy John. He bounced that first one back in the 5th over Paliarulo's head. This one to his right. Pags tries to backhand it. And if he'd come up with it cleanly, he might have had a play, even though Burks is fast. But as soon as the ball bounced off the heel of his glove, no chance.
He got a funny jump on that ball. He got the good jump off the bat to the right. That's the first thing you see as an infielder, the angle off the bat. And then you've got to adjust for the speed of the ball. And he kind of surrounded it way inside. Barrett may give Burks a chance to steal. He is 9 out of 10 attempts this season. Something that this Red Sox team has not had an awful lot of. They've built their clubs for big innings. Right-handed sluggers on the plate, pull the ball. One ball, no strikes with 2 down. Along with my color commentator, Bob Costas.
I'm just trying to give you a thrill, that's all.
Burks has a good lead. Barty, who has spent the time sometime in the National League, as Bob told you, with the Cubs, the setup man for a while for Lee Smith, an awesome reliever for Gene Michael this year. He's got a little bit of a quick move to first base, but he can be slow to home plate with a knee kick. 1-1.
You know, Burks down at first base has impressed us with his speed today, but the real revelation has been his power. They think he's the kind of guy who can hit 20 home runs in a season eventually, and in fact, he's got 5 in his last 8 games, and he's hit 2 grand slams for them this year among 10 home runs. So he could be the rare leadoff man with power, as Henderson is for the Yankees when healthy.
Ellis Burks, if you get the ball inside part of the plate and a little bit down, he can hit that wall. And he could have some fun, as Frank Malzone did here, although Malzone didn't have that kind of speed, but as far as getting a lot of doubles off that wall. He quick pitch and pitch out, and Burks read it. Burks read it. It was not a good pitch out. Bordy sped up his delivery, and when the good base stealers, and he's young, but apparently he's already read him, when they go quickly with their first movement, they're either coming quick to first or quick for a pitch out, and Burks read it and held up. 2-1. We're in the 6th with 2 outs, a man on first base. Red Sox leading 6-3. There's another one of those time consumers with the batter giving time by the umpire stepping out. Good pitch to run on. He's gone. This could be a hanging breaking ball that may reach the wall. Marty Barrett just misses. Here comes Burke with the 7th Red Sox run as Barrett gets a hanging breaking ball with Bordy focusing too much on Ellis Burks, who was on the move, and Barrett hit the wall and just missed getting it on the screen.
This one hits the very top of the wall, as you say, Tony. Here's Pasqua back to the track, and it missed by no more than a foot. Barrett has hit only 2 homers so far this year, and he did not hit that ball especially well. He didn't cream it, didn't get all of it. That wall is 37 feet high. And that one climbed up about 36 feet 9 inches.
Wade Bogg grounded out in the 1st, then he singled to center field for an RBI. He doubled a couple of runs home in the 5th. 7-3 Boston. 1 ball to Boggs.
I didn't think Barrett got that on the sweet part of the bat, really.
Salas slides outside, and Bordy hits it. 1-1. In that number 3 slot, as we look at Barrett down in second base, an RBI double, Boggs has been, on occasion, swinging earlier in the count. It was almost a sure thing. He's going to go up there and run the count to 3-2 out of that leadoff spot. Tries to turn the top hand over, grounds to Randolph, who goes to Ward.
So much for the play-by-play audition. Don't call us. We'll call you. Back after this from your local station. As we move to the 7th inning, Al Nipper has a 7-3 lead. 7 runs, 13 hits, no errors for the Red Sox. 3-3-1 for the Yankees. 2 of those 3 hits in a 3-run first inning. And Nipper has allowed them but 1 hit since, a double by Winfield in the 3rd.
Boggs cheats in from third base, as does Evans at first.
Ball 1 to Tollison. He's grounded out twice. Breaking ball slashed to short. Spike Owen throws him out. You might ask, the name like Spike, what's his real given first name? It's Spike. Don't know what Mr. and Mrs. Owen had in mind. They've got another son who played with the Cubs and the Mariners named Dave Owen, a more conventional, but here we have Spike D-E-E Owen.
Number 18, center fielder.
That's good, Bobby.
Center field.
It's the sort of interesting asides that captivate an audience. Claudell Washington takes a strike.
Say one thing, now that Nipper's gotten in a pretty good groove, you don't know what you're going to see. A pound ball, he's thrown some knuckleballs, varying screwballs. There's a little after the real slow off-speed pitch, a little zip on the fastball, and Claudell can't get on it. He may just show him a knuckleball here. And you can see with an off-speed pitcher like Nipper, especially with a screwball, occasional knuckleball, Claudell Washington's creeped up on the plate.
Ball strike 3. That's the 4th strikeout for Nipper, who's telling Sullivan you didn't tag him, so you got to flip it to first to make it official. Nipper has walked 5, 3 of those in the first inning.
It appears to be a very hard knuckleball. Look at Sullivan, how he's ready for that baby to go in any direction. And it hits right near the thumb area. As it started to tail away, it almost had 2 distinct movements, didn't it, Bob? It looked like it was going to start sliding away, and that's what Claudell ended up darted back when the wind caught a seam. So a very intricate article with wind tunnels. Dr. Holmquist or Holmberg, I think it is, who talked to Phil Niekro about the aerodynamics of knuckleball, and I'm not sure it explains it.
There's a little pop, wide of third. Boggs chases it to the railing, but it's a couple rows in. So they put Niekro in a wind tunnel?
Well, they had some kind of device, propel spinless baseballs directly into a wind to see what aerodynamically, how it would have such an erratic movement. And they could not pinpoint why Papillon did what it did. The butterfly pitch.
God, you're deep.
Yeah.
That's high for a ball. 11 straight years as the Yankees starting second baseman. That ties Tony Lazzari for the longest tenure at that position in Yankee history. Been there longer than Joe Gordon, longer than your old partner Bobby Richardson.
Yeah, Dr. Joel Holenberg did a study on the secrets of the knuckleball. And Niekro said, I still can't figure out why it does what it does.
Here is the answer to the question, which has been troubling all of America since we first brought it up.
It's been bothering me.
Spike Owen's mother's maiden name was Spikes. So they named the lad Spike. Steve Horn, for whatever reason, knew that. We appreciate it. Softly into right, here's Henderson. Another 1-2-3 inning for Nipper. He's cruising now as we bring you another edition of 7th inning stretch. Welcome back to Fenway. Bob Costas with Tony Kubek. Game 2 of the doubleheader. Vin and Joe at the Astrodome. Dodgers and Astros. Mike Scott against Tim Leary. And a reminder, tomorrow NBC Sports begins its Wimbledon coverage with Wimbledon, a fortnight of tradition. Dick Enberg and Bud Collins host a special with a country-by-country review of players past and present. The features include seven-time women's champ Martina Navratilova and two-time men's champion Boris Becker. Tomorrow at 3:30 Eastern on NBC Sports. Strike one to Rice as we go to the last half of the 7th with the Red Sox leading 7-3.
You read that, and the words you used, especially the word forthright, sounds like you've been listening to Joe McGrain of the Cardinals.
Joe McGrain, interesting rookie. Breaking ball in there from Bordy.
Did he say? Use the word forthright?
Fortnight.
Fortnight? Oh! Fortnight. 2 weeks when he went on a 15-day disabled list. Well, that was close.
1-2. 7 home runs and a brawl in that game. One of the homers by Dale Murphy, giving him 22. 8-5 Atlanta in the 7th. 2-2 to Rice.
Jimmy, very conscious of trying to finish his career, and I'm not saying his career is going to be finished over the next few years, but with a lifetime 300 average. And he's one of those kinds of hitters, when the average goes down, he had the slow start, he can just start hitting the ball up the middle, goes after a bad slider, and just maintain a 300 batting average. You wonder if he had said, well, I'll settle for 280 in this ballpark, if he wouldn't have hit 500 home runs in his career. Henry Aaron said that he was the guy that would do it next. He was just breaking in. Of course, we're excluding guys like Schmidt, who's done it since then, who were around when Aaron made the comment. It started.
Baylor is 2 for 3. Ball 1 to him.
You know, some people feel that is one of the problems with the Charlie Lau theories of hitting. It will increase your average so much hitting the ball straight away. So you put your average up 10 points, but if you decrease your run production, whatever that number might be, by not hitting more home runs and pulling the ball, are you helping the club or hurting it? Many people feel you're hurting the ball club because they like to have that home run on the screen more often in this part.
.2-0 pitch to Baylor. Out in front, 2-1. The Red Sox came in as losers of 6 of their last 7. And 8 games under 500. 12.5 off the pace set by the Blue Jays and the Yanks in the East. Another breaking ball fouled back.
You know, people have been watching the Blue Jays, and they've been playing such good baseball, and they forget that over the last, 5 and a little over 5 weeks, the hottest team in baseball has been the Detroit Tigers. They've been on a hotter pace than even the Toronto Blue Jays.
The Red Sox can attest to that. Lost 3 of 4 here to the Tigers, then were swept 3 straight the following weekend in Detroit. Out of play again.
You know, the Yankees, in a way, were a little fortunate in that when Toronto went in and swept them, the Yankees scored just 3 runs in a 3-game series in Yankee Stadium with the injured players, etc., that they were ready to really get buried a little deeper. But then they faced Milwaukee, who had 5 players out with injury. Then they faced a very, very cold, demoralized Baltimore team that let them get back in this thing.
Baylor is now 3 for 4.
He is trying to make a point to John McNamara that he should be playing against all kinds of pitching, not just platooning with a Greenwell or whomever else from the left side. Greenwell sits there in the meantime, who was a hot hitter replacing Rice, cooled down, and then he started playing again and started smoking with the bat. So he deserves to play also. Don't know if he can hit left-handed pitching, though.
Evans has an RBI single, grounded into a double play, and then had an infield hit his last time up in the 5th when he was able to dive around an attempted tag by Gary Ward at first base, though Ward contended that he touched his foot as Evans went by, and the replay seemed to confirm that, but Terry Cooney ruled Evans safe. Baylor at first with 1 out. Last half of the 7th, 7-3 Boston. To back up your point about the Tigers, in their most recent streak, they've won 10 of 13. They're 5 back. of the Blue Jays and the Yankees. 7 over 500. They won last night at Baltimore. And boy, oh boy, is Cal Ripken Sr.'s team ever in a swoon. 5-3 Detroit last night. Jack Morris won his 10th. He's 10-2. Alan Trammell had a homer. So did Darrell Evans and Matt Noakes.
With 2 outs and Evans up the last time, he had 2 strikes on him. Baylor was off and on the move. Trying to find out where the third base umpires. He's gone off the field somewhere. I just looked down on the field, and there's only 3 umpires in this crew. We'll see if we can get a report. So don't know which of the umpires left. Ken Kaiser, I believe.
Yeah, Ken Kaiser, who was at second, left. Tim Welke moved from third to second. And Steve Horn up here in the booth is checking for us.
Maybe Hulk Hogan called him and wants him to go back into wrestling and have Kaiser do a little World Wrestling Federation event tonight and leave early.
I would say with the general tenor of your comments today, you could certainly work the mic at that event.
So you now got Welke kind of roaming in the middle at second base. Terry Cooney at first, Brinkman behind the plate. Ken Kaiser is gone. He'll have to rotate and use the old minor league methods.
Look out. Long drive. Pasqua looks up. Gone.
Lands down.
The Red Sox pour it on. It's number 10 for Evans. And they build the lead to 9-3. Bruce Hurst is one of those there to greet Evans. There's Hurst, number 47. Bob Stanley walking into your picture. Dave Henderson now, 0 for 3. Bordy's 1-0 pitch. Hit hard to center field, but Claudell Washington has it. Lined up and in his glove. That's the second out. The Yankees got 3 in the top half of the first.
When he circled the bases, you could hear that familiar chant here, huh? They're booing him. Nicknamed Dewey. You know, you see him in batting practice, Bob, and he can hit a ball on that screen almost any time he wants. He's probably as good a guess hitter as there is in the game, guessing location in and out, and he guessed right and got a fastball inside part of the plate.
Liner off Owen's bat, in for a hit. Winfield to pick it up. Owen content with a single, which is the 16th Boston hit today. Yankees had 19 hits in a 10-5, 13-inning win last night.
Spike has started the last 26 games at shortstop after they had Romero there, Hoffman there for a while. They talked about bringing kid Jody Reed up from Pawtucket. And he has really hit over that stretch, over 300. And a lot of it is because he said he's gone back to his old style. He was trying to hit too much to left field. He said, now I'm just driving the ball and pulling the ball more. So hitting with more authority. He's really been hitting the ball well.
Owen at first with 2 out. Bordy to Mark Sullivan, swing and a miss. After the Red Sox spotted the Yankees 3 in the first, and inning Al Nipper barely survived. Boston got 1 in the second, 1 in the third. Chased Tommy John with a 2-out rally that produced 4 in the fifth, 1 more in the sixth, 2 so far here in the seventh on the 301st home run of Dwight Evans' career. And now 1-1 to Sullivan with Owen at first and 2 out. Prior to today, Tommy John had a 9-6 career record at Fenway Park. Not just with the Yankees, but with the various clubs he's pitched for through the years. Not bad for a left-hander. And he had a 3-0 lead, but couldn't hold it. 2-2.
Well, the successful pitchers here, Lefty Grove, of course, Babe Ruth. Mel Parnell was great in this ballpark. Bill Lee, we talked about him. Ted Boesfield for just a little while, the sinker ball, slider ball pitcher. Ojeda did pretty well here. Hurst is beginning to pitch better. If you're left-handed, you better learn to pitch in this ballpark.
Ojeda, though, was never truly comfortable pitching here. This one's fouled back and out of play. You know what your old buddy Whitey Ford was lifetime at Fenway? Now, here was a left-hander.
I'll bet you he was about 6 games below 500, if that, or maybe more.
Well, actually, he was 7-6, but he didn't pitch well. He was 7-6 lifetime here, but his career ERA at Fenway was 6.16. And here was a guy who could pitch in and out, pitch to spots as well as anybody ever. So if ever you thought there'd be a left-hander who could overcome pitching at Fenway Park, it would be Whitey, but he got knocked around pretty good here.
Well, Casey Stengel used to shuffle his starting rotation so Whitey would miss pitching in this park.
And Sullivan is a strikeout victim, so he's 0 for 4. Just about the only guy who hasn't joined the hit parade for the Red Sox today. We'll be back. At the rate Nipper was going, he either would have been yanked or his arm would have fallen off with that pitch count through the first inning. But as soon as he survived it, and then the Red Sox began to peck away at Tommy John, Nipper became a new man, and look what's happened the last 6 innings.
He's riding a string right now of 7 consecutive Yankee hitters retired. He's had 3 streaks like that. In the first inning, single by Ward, he set down 6 in a row. Then after the walk into third, he ended up setting 6 more down in a row. Now he's riding a string of 7.
Tim Welke moves back to third because Ken Kaiser has returned. Big Ken is at second, just where he started the game.
Wind has shifted. Wind's blowing out the left now, Bob.
This is a shallow fly, and Rice has it as we head for New York once again to get an update from Don Criqui. Don?
Thanks, Bob. When the rain stopped, the fight began in Cleveland. Rick Dempsey of the Indians, caught in a rundown, didn't like the tag by Jim Presley of Seattle, and here we go again. Umpire Larry Young was the third man in the ring. No ejections. Cleveland leads 2-0 in the bottom of the 4th. Now back to Bob and Tony at Fenway.
Gee, the way this week is gone, Peter Ueberroth will have to call John Ziegler to get some insight on how the NHL deals so brilliantly with their fighting problems.
Well, they put in the Dunston rule, the instructions of the umpire. Any batter charges them on automatic ejection, but that hasn't worked, has it? Maybe they're going to have to impose bigger fines, prevent guys from getting hurt. The Yankees, a little more difficult, Bob, to come back now because of Mattingly and, of course, Henderson out. But that means the bench players, the bats off the bench, are starting the ball game. So they've really, as far as power, they've just got Kittle on the bench.
Here's a chance for Burks in center field. He comes in on Winfield's hop and makes the catch. Well, at least no baseball fights begin before the game does. This happened recently in the NHL playoffs.
Edmonton, Philadelphia during the warm-ups when they tried to shoot a little shot at the goal, a little superstition, and it all broke out, didn't it?
Pasquaz walked and grounded out twice.
9 in a row set down by Al Nipper now. There's no way he was supposed to be around after that first, is there? And he has really settled in. Starts him off with a little slow knuckleball, it looked like. Got to go back way until, what, the 3rd, since the last Yankee hit a Winfield double. A couple of walks in there.
2-0 pitch to Pasqua, 3-0. Coming into today's game, Nipper had allowed 15 homers in 86 innings pitched. Thrown a lot of gopher balls. The Yankees haven't connected against him today. Winfield thought he had one, hit near the top of the wall in the 3rd. Fouled back into the glove of Sullivan, 3-2.
Nipper has really given the bullpen, Billy Fisher, the pitching coach, a rest. Asked Billy before the game, who can you use out of the pen? Use every. He said, only one we won't use is Joe Sambito.
Called strike 3 on the inside edge, and that pitch really had some action to it. What a groove Nipper has found. And a 9-3 lead after 7.5. Coming up, second half of the doubleheader, Dodgers and Astros. Mike Scott for Houston. A few minutes away on NBC.
Former Met who won a Cy Young Award. Interesting trivia quiz. You had a lot of them last night during that 13-inning ball game that went till almost 1 a.m.
Burke starts it off. 2 for 4. Foul ball wide of third. Let's check what's happening elsewhere around the major leagues. John Filippelli and the boys in the truck throw the scores up. Atlanta leading Cincinnati at home 8-6. Dale Murphy hit his 22nd in that one. Cleveland, where they also had a fight just as they did earlier in Atlanta with a 2-0 lead against Seattle. Milwaukee with the lead on Toronto in the 8th. The Pirates in front at Wrigley in the 6th, and the Pirates are no longer a pushover team. They're not a contender, but you can't be assured of just going in and blowing them away.
But Brian Fisher gave him a shutout yesterday, the former Yankee setup man for Righetti.
In that Seattle-Cleveland game, Steve Carlton was scheduled to pitch for the Indians. He's 4-4 so far this year. Have you seen him throw in person this year?
Yeah, I've seen him throw 3 times. I mean, he's never going to be, obviously, at his age, and through all the strikeouts and great years, be what he was, but he still gets the fastball on occasion in the mid to high 80s. So a little screwball, change in speed, doesn't have his best pitch, except for on some occasion, that's that great slider. Once in a while, like Guidry did last night. Ron Guidry threw the ball at times with a radar gun showed in the low 90s yesterday. And it's only his 3rd start of the season, and he threw some of those wicked sliders. So he could really be a savior for this Yankee staff.
Here's the 2-2 pitch from Bordy. Breaking ball, pop back, foul. Salas coming over, but it's well back in the seats.
You know, Bob, it's difficult in the middle of June. You can't say that the Eastern Division of American League is going to boil down to 3 teams: Yankees, Detroit, Toronto. But right now it looks that way. Red Sox got a long way to go. But if there is an edge, the edge could be in the minor leagues, and that could be Toronto's, because they've got young Todd Stottlemyre down there. Some of these Red Sox hitters, Burke's one who was calling up from AAA ball, said they got about 4 or 5 guys throwing in the 90s down there. Todd Stottlemyre is one, Colin McLaughlin, Luis Aquino, a kid named Jose Mesa. They've got great position players that if there is a possibility of a Dotson deal, they could use some kids to get a Dotson to strengthen their pitching staff. So sometimes the minor leagues, AAA level, you take the kids like the Yankees did years ago, trade for a key guy, and Dotson seems to be available.
Burke's called out on strikes. As we pause briefly for station identification, this is the NBC Television Network.
WBRE-TV 28, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton.
Barrett working on a 3 for 4 afternoon. A pair of singles and a double high off the wall and left his last time up. Joe Brinkman has granted pitchers the high strike today, and that's why Barrett was peeking back at him after that last call. That will usually not be called a strike.
Well, like Bertie Tebbett said, he does a lot of scouting. If the catcher just held it there a little longer, they'd start getting the book strike. Just hold that one for a while above the belt and say, hey, man, this is a strike. Of course, the catcher then runs the risk of having that same pitch called on him. The way it is now, if the hitter wants to take a hack at a very attractive high strike above the belt, he can swing it and hit it deep. If he doesn't want it, it's called a ball. So who's got the advantage on that? Certainly not the pitcher.
Bordy has given up 3 runs, 2 of them on Evans' homer, but I thought he's had pretty good stuff today. Fastball inside.
Especially when he sticks with his breaking stuff and shows the fastball on occasion.
The Red Sox have 16 hits, producing 9 runs. Their high hit total in a game this year, 18. Fouled off a little bit more than a week ago at Baltimore in a 15-4 victory that saw Barrett and Burks hit grand slams. Boggs next.
No matter what happens to this Red Sox team, they're going to draw a lot of people. Just off last year, a lot of tickets have been sold way into August and September, but people are going to always come out to see Wade Boggs hit.
Curveball, check swing, roller to Randolph, and that's the second out. As Boggs comes up, we can tell you that he's on a pace with better than 90 hits already a pace to reach 200 again. That would be the 5th consecutive 200-hit season for Wade Boggs, which would tie the modern Major League record for consecutive, not total, but consecutive 200-hit seasons, shared now by Al Simmons and Chuck Klein. Wee Willie Keeler had 8 consecutive years topping 200 hits, but before the turn of the century, at least most of it, 1893 through 1901 or something like that. Fouled out of play.
See, Johnny Pesky and Jimmy Rice has had in the past 3 consecutive 200-hit seasons each, and Boggs put that to rest last year, didn't he, with his 4th?
The count now on Boggs 0-2. Steve Horn informs us that the pitcher has been ahead of Boggs 34 times this year, 0-2. Boggs has come back to get a hit 15 times. He's hitting .441 when behind 0-2. Roll toward Paliarulo. They'll get him this time. And a 1-2-3/8 for Rich Forty. Last licks for the Yankees. They trail by 6. Here's the way it's gone so far today at Fenway, and now Al Nipper tries to complete this inning and get his 3rd complete game of the season, and this his 16th start, trying to even his record at 6-6.
A 3-hitter, no less, to this point. For a guy who is like 1 base hit away from being out of the ballgame.
Gary Ward, his first hitter here in the 9th, fouls it off. Roger Clemens pitches tomorrow. His record is 5-6, though he has pitched much better than that record would indicate. Bob Tewksbury up from Columbus, with Charlie Hudson having been sent to the farm. Tewksbury will start tomorrow for the Yankees. Ward flies to Burks, 1 out in the 9th.
Not only has Al Nipper done what he's want to with a lot of off-speed pitches, when he has gone to his fastball, he's thrown it in ideal spots. There's one that ties Gary Ward up right in on the fist beneath the belt.
Here's Paliarulo. Said growing up as a kid from Medford, Massachusetts, he loved to come to Fenway. Rifles this one toward deep right center, and it is out of here. So he comes to Fenway and shows the home folks what he can do. He had a home run in the 13th last night. That was a game winner. This one probably just pads his personal stats. First run off Nipper since the 1st. It's 9-4 as Paliarulo hits his 10th of the season into the bullpen in right center.
Nipper said, I'm going to get ahead of Paliarulo in a hurry. He'd had 11 consecutive retired. Paliarulo went down and got a little sinker, it looked like. It's a place in this ballpark, the right center, where the ball carries pretty well. Then it bellies out to about 380 in the line, near the line, and then closes fast, very short, right in the right field corner.
A strike to Salas.
You got to really get it around that right field foul pole. About 300 feet is all it takes, a little over that.
Paliarulo was saying he loved to sit out in the center field bleachers when the Red Sox played the Yankees, and he would spend his time razzing Mickey Rivers, then the Yanks center fielder. Liner into center, it's going to drop. Maybe Nipper is tiring here. Salas with a big turn. He's at first with 1 out. And because of time considerations, we've got to tell you now, the Major League Baseball Game of the Week has been brought to you by Miller Lite. For great taste, there's only one light beer. By Yugo. Buy yourself a little freedom and see how it feels to have your own set of wheels. By Howard Johnson Hotels and Lodges. And by the Champion Spark Plug Company. If only Paliarulo had known Mickey Rivers personally then. Here was a guy who could give Yogi a true run for his money in the all-time Malaprop Derby.
He could also give Reggie Jackson some pretty good jabs when they got in their intellectual discussions.
One time on the bus, Reggie declared that he had an IQ of 160.
Yeah.
And Mickey said, out of what, 1,000? Mickey is also alleged to have said, I don't know if this is true, but it should be, alleged to have said during a trivia session, yeah, what was the name of the dog on Rin Tin Tin?
Mm-hmm.
And Nipper is ahead of Tolleson 0-2.
Gone back to the off-speed stuff now. A little slow curveball to Tolleson. They're not holding Salas at all at first base. They've got Evans back with 1 out, and they'll protect the home. Calvin Schiraldi begins to throw, and Nipper had that streak of 11 consecutive set down, put to a halt by Pagliarulo, and it takes Schiraldi a little bit of a time, even in this warm weather, to get loose, because he pitched a little bit yesterday and the day before.
Tolleson with a slow roll to second. Might not get 2. They do get 1, and Owen won't throw. Salas went in hard at second base. So still a flicker of life for the Yankees. The executive producer of NBC Sports is Michael Weissman. Coordinating producer for NBC's baseball and the director of today's game at Fenway, Harry Coyle. The telecast of the game of the week produced by John J. Filippelli. Technical director Lenny Stucker. Steve Horn, our stat man in the booth. We welcome those of you who watched the game in Atlanta today. Bob Costas and Tony Kubek. Yanks down to their last out at Fenway. That's ball 1 to Claudell Washington. A Pagliarulo homer here in the ninth has brought the Yankees a run closer, but they trail 9-4, and Al Nipper is a hitter away from a complete game. Into center field, Burke started in, now goes back, and leaps up to make the catch.
He's a nice-looking player, isn't he? He misjudged one early in that first inning that almost got Nipper out of the ballgame, but he just made a great catch right at the pads.
So a pleasing finish for Red Sox fans. Nipper was knocked around, had trouble with his control in the first. He walked 3. The Yankees scored 3 times. But the Red Sox come back against Tommy John, who is the loser. He's now 7-3. Nipper 6-6. Burks, after misjudging Washington's shot, gets back and makes a nice catch. Dwight Evans had a homer in this game for the Red Sox. He was among their heroes. They win it 9-4, and we'll be back in a minute. Dwight Evans had 3 hits, including a homer. Barrett and Baylor each had 3 hits for the Red Sox. 2 hits apiece for Rice and Boggs. Boggs was 2 for 5, ends the day as he began it at 369, tops in the majors. This week's NBC Miller Lite Player of the Game is Al Nipper, who went all the way. Miller Lite is happy to present a check for $1,000 in Al Nipper's name to the National Multiple Sclerosis